Okay, thank you everyone for coming. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock on the dot. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, again, I'd like to thank everyone for coming. I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the regular Board of Education meeting dated Tuesday, May 14th, 2024. Next item on the agenda is communication to the Board of Education. And I believe in our packet, we had one communication, an email from Mr. Bailey. Again, we have that dated April 3rd, 2024 at 9:52 a.m. That will become record and part of the minutes for tonight's meeting. Do we have any additional communication to the board? No additional communication. So we'll open it up for public comment. Would anybody like to address the board?
I have slightly updated on
Oh, okay, perfect.
little edited.
If
This
you-
one's a psych out.
Perfect. If you would, Mr. Bailey, just when you take the mic, are you planning to take a mic? Are you going to read this?
Yeah. My voice is a little hoarse from, the job running over equipment. Would Mr. Souza please read it for me? He
You
speaks
okay?
a little better than me.
Would you be okay doing that? All right. If you would, can you just do me a favor, Mr. Bailey? Can you just take the mic and
Sure.
name and address, please?
Jay Bailey, 575 Main Street.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Bailey's asked that I read it. Yeah, I'm lit up. Yep. His letter. So I will go ahead and do so. To the Board of Education, you have asked for the town residents' feedback about one armed security officer for our 3 elementary schools, but despite our concerns, the board wants to push the guard through anyway. Board members Penny Miller and Kristen Young have voiced concerns too, but have been overruled and disregarded. We have a grant for upgrading the buildings for security, but the work has not been done yet. It makes more sense that we secure the schools themselves first as a priority. That should include a comprehensive camera system and monitor station. I do not feel you have properly discussed and have disregarded my idea of hiring monitors working in shifts on the camera system. Department stores and malls use the monitor and security guard teams all the time. Do you think our children are worth less than common store merchandise? The monitor position with properly locked down buildings should be in place before any guard is hired. That way the guard starts out being part of a team system. The whole mindset of the guard would be completely different, with eyes everywhere and backup coming at a moment's notice. The cost of everything is skyrocketing. The average person is feeling it at the grocery store, and we look to keep our expenses down. It's insulting to the hardworking taxpayers to throw away money on such a foolish idea that one guard can secure 3 schools in different parts of town that are improperly secured mechanically too. The budget has been an issue this year. The fact that you plan to throw the guard in as an extra later down the line is a deception to the Board of Finance and the whole town. Another insult to the hardworking taxpayers. There are many aspects of this decision that are flawed. An example, Board member Kristen Young has repeatedly expressed concern about the Board of Education owning guns, which you seem to shrug off as petty. Connecticut has some of the most aggressive gun laws in the country. Owning guns is a huge liability for the taxpayers. That issue alone should cause you to think carefully about how the guard job is formatted. Either we hire a private security firm, or even better, the guard should be official constables in our police department. To focus the process in steps, we should secure the buildings first and have monitors on the job. The buildings should be monitored before the school begins sessions and until after the schools close every day. Once the buildings are properly secured with up-to-date technologies, then we could address the armed guards in a town referendum included in a future budget proposal. Hiring police to protect our elementary schools should not be a unilateral decision made by the Board of Education. The permanent cost that will continue to increase over the years, burdening the taxpayers, is not a decision to be made by a few people in volunteer positions. Another important issue that you are disregarding is the fact that both Bakerville and New Hartford elementary schools, and especially their playgrounds, are directly exposed to the streets, making it impossible to protect the children from a determined threat. That issue, combined with the aging buildings and 3 separate locations, make Antolini site ideal for consolidating our elementary schools. We need to start the process of consolidation and obtaining a grant ASAP, because it's going to make many years no matter how fast we move. It's going to take many years no matter how fast we move. It will not affect any students in Bakerville or the Main Street area in the foreseeable future, so no parents have a reason to protest. The plan should include a reserve area for further expansion so that we are prepared to grow far into the future. Sincerely, J. A. Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Your letter will be taken under consideration. Is there any additional public comment tonight? All right, seeing none, we will move on to item C on our agenda, the superintendent's report. Jeff, take it away.
All right, thank you, Board Chair Tim Kleps. Appreciate it. Want to kick off first by acknowledging that we've had a multitude of celebrations over the course of the past month and a half. First, I want to celebrate that all of our educators in New Hartford Public Schools, we have honored them during our week of teacher appreciation. And thank you to the PTO also for sponsoring and helping to support our teachers and staff. We are indebted to you forever for all of the wonderful work you do with our kids every single day. We've also celebrated Nurses Appreciation Week for taking great care of us with all the Band-Aids, bumps, bruises, stomach aches, headaches, everything under the sun. It's such a wonderful, welcoming place to visit our nurses as they take great care of us and do a great job communicating with our parents and our families as well. So thank you to all of our nurses. To our paraeducators who continue to support our students from soup to nuts with anything that we need, whether it's a shoe tie or it's support with a math problem that we're having a difficult time with, or a draft of another research project, or helping us with our phonemic awareness and pieces. We're just so indebted to all of our paraeducators. So thank you to our administrative assistants who help run the daily work every single day in all of our schools and at central office. We're indebted to you as well. And we honored and celebrated you. And also to our wonderful principals who are here in the audience this afternoon. Just thank you so much for leading our communities, leading our schools, leading our staff and students to make great choices every day, to be better versions of themselves every day. It's amazing the work that you do. So we're indebted to all of our educators in our entire town. So thank you all. We've had more celebrations, so continuing that positive light, we've invited 2 of our superintendent recognition award recipients to our this evening at the Board of Education. One such has made it to our event. The other regretfully sends his apologies, he cannot be here. So we are honoring tonight Sienna Michalski. She's a 6th grader here at Anna Antolini School in New Hartford. Her favorite subjects are math and reading. Sienna is an avid reader and participates in the Talented and Gifted enrichment after school. She is busy working on the 6th grade yearbook, playing clarinet in the band, hiking, and tap dancing. She also has been learning to sew clothes. In her free time, she enjoys baking, with desserts being her specialty. When Sienna grows up, she hopes to be a math or a reading teacher. We want to celebrate and honor you, Sienna, this evening. Derek Baba is also recognized. He is a 6th grader here at Antolini School as well. He enjoys math, science, and social studies. Derek plays around the diamond in baseball. He has several ambitions for when he grows up. Derek hopes to be a baseball player or a pilot. He is also interested in joining the Air Force. He is planning to join the New Hartford Volunteer Fire Department as a junior cadet as soon as he is old enough. He is a naturally talented landscaper who likes to go outside and explore the possibilities in the yard. Congratulations also to Derek.
And if I could add quickly, I just left Derek. He is representing New Hartford baseball. They were up 11-0 against Heartland.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, continuing our celebrations and news around the town, I want to send it over to Brooke as our student representative to give us an update for New Hartford. Brooke, if you don't mind, can you press the button to make sure your mic is on and green? There you go.
I'd like to talk to you about 4th grade because they put in so much effort towards academic performances throughout these last few months. In math, they are now beginning multiplying 4-digit by 1-digit and 2-digit by 2-digit. They are using the array model strategy to find the product. In social studies, they are learning about early settlements and the lost colony of Roanoke. In ELA, Fourth graders finished reading and researching about different animals and wrapped up their informational writing piece about an animal's defense mechanisms. They are now beginning their Choose Your Own Adventure book lesson and are going to write their own following the same format that the author of the book chose to use. The fourth graders are going on a field trip to Noah Webster House to mimic what they learned in social studies. Thank you so much, Ms. Schroeder, for informing me about amazing fourth grade. Fun end of the year activities and field trips. Sixth graders have a very busy end of year. We just took our trip to Ellis Island and will be completing the epic adventure of the 3-night trip to White Memorial. We just finished our tour to Region 7 to help guide the big transition. To wrap it all up, sixth graders will be celebrating the end of the DARE unit in health. In further occasion, sixth graders will model their library project of creating an outfit of available resources for Project Runaway. Jump ropers will perform their end-of-year show, so make sure you stop by to see the new Hartford High Flyers really fly. Third graders will be visiting the Science Center in Hartford. Fifth grade will be spending a day at Nature's Classroom. Also, keep a lookout for the 5th and 6th grade chorus and band concert. We are also getting ready for an exciting field day on June 11th and 12th. Sixth graders will also have a moving up ceremony in June and the end of the year dance to look forward to. We are all going to be very busy until the last day of school.
Thank you very, very much, Brooke. Appreciate it and look forward to hearing from you and Lucas next month as well. Thank you. So Brooke mentioned the step-up ceremony taking place on June the 13th. Want to just encourage the board to look for more information. And of course, you are always invited to attend if you are able. We also, on June the 6th, have a wonderful day, a celebration of learning taking place from 5 to 7 p.m. to celebrate the entire year of learning right here at Annie Antolini School. We have talented and gifted presentations. We have a learning fair and even summer learning opportunities. Community guests include the Beakley Library, New Hartford Parks and Rec, and New Hartford Boys and Girl Scouts. And also grab a treat at the ice cream truck if that's not enough incentive. All right. So look forward to our celebration of learning on June the 6th. All right. Next up, want to give a very, very heartfelt thank you to all of the town of New Hartford, to our Board of Selectmen, and to our Board of Finance and to the Board of Education, and all in support of the budget for next year. We are very, very grateful for continuing to support our efforts as an educational institution and as a Board of Education. So thank you. And bittersweet news, our data manager, Linda Fitzgerald, has announced that she will be retiring after 26 years of dedicated service. She has been incredible in handling all of our data needs, reporting to the state of Connecticut. She's done an amazing job for all of our schools and for our entire district. We wish her the absolute best, and as she embarks on this next chapter in her life in celebrating her, but also that she'll be enjoying beautiful time with her amazing grandchildren. So congratulations to you, Linda Fitzgerald. I believe those are all of my updates, sir.
Okay, thank you. Turn this on. Our next item on the agenda is the Board of Education Chair Report. So there is one item listed under here for social media policy etiquette. This was an item that was requested to be added to the agenda. We have all but one board member here, so we can make a decision that we want to wait for the entire board, or we can table this until next meeting. I will leave that up to the board. Does anybody have a preference?
I think we should wait until all members are here.
Okay.
My only concern is it's tough to ever get everybody here. So the next time it could be the same.
Yeah, it seems that we've had, this particular meeting, the one member that is absent did tell us back when we set our calendar that today was a conflict. So again, knowing that was going to happen again, I was reminded of it today. But I expected that we'd have all members here. I think it's something, again, that we want to talk about as a board. And yeah, we've had some ups and downs in trying to get entire members here. But I think if we make it a point for our next meeting, we can ensure that we have all our membership.
One thing I want to add to this, because you make the legal references at the end. The Supreme Court in March made a decision that applies to this. That you'd have, and I can email you the specific details of it.
Mhm.
But it will definitely affect this policy. And in essence, what it says is that if somebody on a social media platform comments about any elected official in any town in the U.S., makes a comment about the job or policy, that they cannot deplatform anybody, kick them off. Once you open that doorway on your private, even if it's your private social media platform, it would be like closing the door to your office. And so it's an important case, and I'll send you the
Yeah, please do.
information on that.
Please do. Yeah, I mean, this is an important topic again, and I bring it up that, again, we can wait for all membership to be here because I know that all board members play into this, and I think the intent, based on what I was told, reason was added for all of us to learn from it, for all of us to understand what our current policy says. If there is some recent Supreme Court rulings that we may want to revisit, our policy subcommittee should do that, at this point in time. I mean, we can take the item up now, or if the board's okay, we'll table it for today, and we'll hope that this is on the agenda when we have our full.
I guess I
Board
was
here.
not entirely clear, and sorry, this will impact my decision on whether or not we can table it or move forward, but I was not entirely clear what the purpose of including this was. Was this just a review of the policy, or is this a place for us to be discussing updates to the policy?
No, it was a review of the policy, just again, for awareness, right?
Okay.
Again, we had a meeting, our last meeting was all about trying to improve our board, procedures and policies. And this was another item just to speak about as a board, to ensure that we were all aware of as social media has become such an incredible part of everybody's lives, right?
Yeah.
To make sure that, again, we understand what the guidelines are, what the liabilities may be by being on social media, when it becomes a quorum, how many individuals within our board. So it was really a more a learning exercise for the rest of the committee, or the rest of the board, I'm sorry.
And also how we behave with family members.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, again, as you've read, and again, I would encourage everyone on the board to please read through, and it sounds like some have, in a bit of detail of what it says. Again, it is about the person, it's about the individuals who are elected officials on this board. It's not about anyone else.
I'm okay to wait.
Okay. So again, if there's nobody who is against it, I think it'd be okay to table this until next meeting. Okay. The other item under the Board of Education Chair's report is, again, you are all aware that our budget was approved by referendum, which is fantastic. So we head into next year with a fully funded Board of Education budget. And then the other item underneath the Board of Education Chair's report is, are there any other items that want to be added to the agenda for discussion tonight? They can be added by 2/3 vote of the full board by motion. So is there anything that wants to be added tonight? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to routine business. First item under routine business is approval of minutes. We have minutes from March 5th, 2024, March 13th, 2024, March 27th, 2024, April 2nd, 2024, and April 23rd, 2024. We can take them all as one motion for approval, or if anyone has comments, we can pull the minutes for any one of these meetings for further discussion.
I'll motion to approve all.
Motion by Tim Russell to approve all meeting minutes.
I'll second.
We have a second by Frank. Is there any discussion? Is everybody okay with them? Does anybody want to pull them?
Well, I just had one comment, and it's really just semantics. I'm not sure we did a motion to exit executive session on the April 23rd. I know some people are very sticklers about whether we motioned to come out of executive session, because you really don't, you just come out. But it says we motioned, but
Oh, okay.
I'm fine with it either way. It's just a point of clarification.
All I'm going to defer to you. Do you think that's an issue at all?
I'm looking at it now.
Jeff, I'm pretty sure Janet emailed that to me.
Yeah, so this was, I'm looking on April 23rd, executive session. This was to exit. We went in 5:43, exited at 6:20, and then adjourned. So Tom, can you repeat what you
That
were,
was just, we don't exit the motion, we don't motion to exit executive.
It was just the
session.
time that we
just
exited.
leave, that's all.
Yeah.
It's just a clear.
I think we can,
It
I think
doesn't-
we can correct that clerical issue if Jim
Just a
and
sec.
Frank are okay with amending their motion for, Tom, which specific meeting was that?
23rd?
April 23rd.
April 23rd. Are you guys okay amending your motion to approve all meeting minutes with this one clerical change?
I make a motion to approve all meeting minutes with that clerical change.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to amend the April 23rd minutes and to approve all our minutes for the one clerical change that, again, there was no motion to come out of executive session. Motion by Tim Russell, seconded by Frank. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, any opposed? Any abstentions? Eric is,
I wasn't here for most of those, so I'm going to abstain.
all right, 701, you're right. Yep, so the motion passes 701, and Eric, that is proper. You weren't involved with those, so that's the proper motion. Thank you.
And this is for all of them?
Yes, this is the approval of all the meeting minutes. The one that's going to be amended is April 23rd. Just a clerical change to remove the minutes for a motion to come out of executive session.
Just so you know that I do read it.
Okay, the next item under routine business is the expenditure report. If I can get a motion to approve or a motion to deny the expenditure report.
Motion to approve the expenditure report as presented.
Motion by Tom Buzzy. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Kristen. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. That motion passes unanimously. All right, next item on the agenda is old business. Do we have anything to discuss on old business? All right, no discussion, no items to take up on our old business. New business, we start with item number 1, presentation for consideration of chlorination systems at Ann Antolini and Bakerville Consolidated. We do have with us today Ron Black, who is the president of Water System Solutions and Design Incorporated.
So I'd like to welcome up Mr. Black to the microphone, please. And I've worked with Mr. Black since I've arrived here. If you want to know anything about water, it's chemistry, how it's made up. He knows all. So he is most, he's being humble. He's being humble. So water is obviously extremely important for sanitation purposes, potable water, things of that nature. And with having wells, there are certain specific considerations to take every single year. And I've been working with Ron for the past year and a half since I've been here. He's been with the district for many more years prior to that in providing reliable testing and reports to the state through the Department of Public Health and helping us correct anything that needs to be corrected. So I wanted to bring Ron before you because one of his proposals, which you'll see the letter dated from May, is that one of the proposals that he would like us to consider as the Board of Education is to chlorinate the water supplies for our wells in both Bakerville and here at Ann and Antolini. New Hartford is supplied obviously by town or by city water, so that's different. It's already chlorinated. It's different than here. So I wanted to bring him before us, and if the board had specific questions regarding the proposal, I wanted him to be available so that he could answer those in a knowledgeable fashion. So that's why I want to turn it over to Mr. Black now and to the board.
If I could, just again, for the notes, we do have two proposals in our packet for today. Each one-page proposals, one for Antolini School and one for Bakerville School. Mr. Black.
Yeah, first, any questions off, or do you want? I've been in this business, just so you know who I am. Grew up in the business, third generation. After getting my music ed degree at UConn in the 70s, I said, well, I got a job offer for $7,000 a year. So I said, yeah, I'll go help that out for a year. Here I am. Our firm is small, but we take care of about 35, 37 public utility systems, small ones. Antolini, Bakerville, that counts two. We design, build them, service them, oversee the water testing, install treatment as needed, emergency response, whatever is needed. Probably the most important thing that I've been pushing with the schools for the last 10 or 12 years, and certainly since COVID, is to do whatever we can to safeguard against bacterial and viral infections and contamination in the wells. Bakerville and Antolini historically have had a couple hits of coliform bacteria over the years. We've resolved them, we've cleaned the wells, we've tested the wells, we installed a new tank at Antolini. But it's kind of a loaded gun that's gonna go off sooner or later. Every time we get a drought or extreme weather or extreme rains, the wells can push surface water into the water table. Usually doesn't get down into the wells, sometimes it does. We only test the water at Antolini and Bakerville, I believe, once a quarter. So a lot can go wrong in between 90 days of testing. And we don't know if there's bacteria or problems with the water until we test it. So since COVID, both the Department of Health and we have been sort of pushing hard to get schools, especially to get in any public water supplies, to get chlorination installed. For decades, I fought against chlorine because well water is pure, quote unquote. Why would I want to put a carcinogen into the water to protect against health? Things have kind of shifted around, both as far as the contamination levels that have gone up and also the public backlash now. When there is a problem, why didn't you do everything you could to protect my kids? A small hit of coliform in the water is not a health issue, but it's an indicator that something is not right. So by injecting a light level of chlorine into the water, maintaining it, giving 24-hour surveillance of it, monitoring the chart recorder, a small wireless alarm system that will let us know if there's a problem. It takes away both the risk from the bacteria and viral contamination that could happen, and also eliminates, frankly, the public perception of liability that a school or an owner might have if they knew they could do this, but they didn't. So I don't lose sleep over the fact that both these schools don't have chlorination. They're pretty good history, but there are blips on the radar. And my job as your operator is to tell you what I perceive could be a problem going down the line. The DPH and the EPA, who governs our Department of Health in the state, part of their job is to find new contaminants, to lower the contaminant levels, to approach as pure water supply as possible. We all have our opinion of that, but it's the reality. PFAS, I'm sure you've been listening to, that's the next hit that's going to be going on with the schools and with the public water supplies. Everybody's going to have to test for that and then remediate for it in the next 5 years. Living copper, thanks to Flint, Michigan years ago, that became a big hit that we're dealing with already. So for the last 2 or 3 years, I've sort of been recommending to schools and water systems put in this chlorination system. if any of you have a well at your house and you have a feed pump, this isn't just a feed pump in a tank, it's the feed pump, it's containment, it's monitoring, it's alarms, it's chart recorder, it's alarm system, plus the design and everything has to be reviewed by the state. That's what the cost of this is. And that's basically what's in front of you. The details and the components are there. I'm happy to answer any and all questions about anything to do with water, not about music yet.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Black?
I have a bunch,
Sure.
so I'll just shoot. You want them all at once or one at a time?
One at a time is probably best.
Okay. Is more frequent testing an option? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like monthly.
We can test more. A lot of places we do monthly, certainly as protecting, more frequent testing. I'm a big fan of it.
What's the cost of the test?
I think the back fizz test, which is basically, it's a bacteria physical test that we're required to do. There's a lot of annual testing. There's some tests are every 2 years, 5 years, 3 years. Those are going to continue at the same rate. The basic testing, I want to say it's about $150 for the bacteria physical component to get it to pull it.
That's the test, that's the quarterly testing we're doing
That's the
currently?
quarterly testing, that's the baseline. If you've ever seen the water testing budget, it goes anywhere from $1,000 up to $6,000 a year, depending on which tests unfortunately fall in it, that the state requires.
But that 150 would cover the bacteria test.
It checks for the bacteria. We pull a couple bacterias. We take 2 different samples to confirm it as we pull, plus the physical, which also covers color turbidity. The reason those are monitored as well is because if you get color turbidity in the water, that can start masking other problems. So they want to keep an eye on that as well.
Another question I have is the upkeep cost. If you put a system like this in, how much is the annual cost to keep chlorinating? And
The chemical itself might be $50, $60 a year. It's not a lot. But these 2 schools use an amazingly small amount of water a day, 1 to 2,000 gallons a day. So the amount and part of the cost of injecting chlorine is what's the demand? What is it trying to treat? These wells are historically clean, so the demand for chlorine is very minimal. So we can inject a very minimal amount and still carry residual that's required. That's why I'm saying $50, $60 for the chemical. The feed pumps typically last 5 to 7 years. They're a mechanical item that leaves banging away, so they do fail. No question about it. The analyzer and chart recorders, so far I've got about 22 of this particular brand installed. I've replaced one over the last 5 years. Do they have a 7-year life? I don't know. I'm going to get hit if they do, but they're pretty good with that. What it does do, and I mentioned at the bottom of those proposals, is it bumps your lead and copper sampling up to every 6 months. I think we're on once a year now we typically pull a bunch of lead and coppers. That's part of the EPA's code that when you install a treatment system, no matter what it is, your lead and copper sampling has to increase because they're afraid you're adding corrosion to the water. And again, thanks to Flint, Michigan, lead and copper has become a big concern.
So can you, Mr. Black,
We
you pause?
come here twice a month, every 2 weeks already. As far as maintenance, that would not increase. We don't need to come every week to check the systems.
So that's, again, I was going to ask about that particular line in this proposal. It says, in addition, our operation visits and fee would increase every 2 weeks to ensure
Yeah, and
progress.
that I'm telling you news today, I don't think, because we've installed, since that was written, I've installed 6 different systems at different schools, and I'm finding I can, with the alarm that we're putting in now, we don't need to be to maintain the system. Once we get them dialed in. We may come every week, we may come every day for 10 days. That's all part of that cost. But
So
once
the
it's dialed
14,
in-
the 14.5 per
Right.
school includes
Yeah,
this
that
2 week.
includes getting it balanced in the first 6 months of whatever.
So we would expect this line would be revised.
Yeah, that would be, it would remain.
Should the board
that
decide to
revised-
move forward.
It should say it's going to remain the same as it is now, which is every 2 months.
My last question is, have schools been able to get grants for this? That you know?
The grant program and the money program, both from the infrastructure, but also previous to that, the SRF, which is the state revolving fund. Want to be as tactful as I can on this, but there's no tactful way of saying it, because I talk to the Department of Health all the time on this. It's structured for projects that are probably $100,000 to $200,000. Because in order to get the money, you have to follow the federal rules, which means you have to have a clerk who works, you have to get the bids, you have to put in all kinds of stuff. And you also have to fit into the category of being a needy community, of which this town is not, doesn't fit that parameter. So you can get low interest loans for this. You don't know if you can get grants from the state. Are there other places that you can get them? Possibly, I'm not aware. But that's, again, it's not my end to pursue that. I know about the state, so I can point you in the right direction. But private places, I don't know.
If we were to go ahead with this, what is the timeline for implementation?
Typically, it's 1 to 2 weeks. I'll have the design and submittal together for the state. We get it up to the state. They'll take anywhere from 10 days to 2 months to review it, depending on their mood and, quite frankly, which engineer I get. And if they've worked with me before, it's pretty much it moves too quickly. If it's a trainee who has decided to go through every nut and bolt of it, then it can take a little longer. Once we get the approval, it's a matter of a few weeks to get it installed.
When was the last time we had a confirmed water contamination? in these
It's been a
two
couple
schools?
of years.
Couple years.
Yeah, it's been at least 2 years.
And what other schools do you know of that have this system already?
We take care of, most of the schools that we take care of are down in the Ridgefield area. We've got the Ridgefield, there's 2 Ridgefield schools. The town of Weston has 7 schools that we've got this on. Marvelwood School, Salisbury School, the private schools. We've got Region 6, one of their 3 that we operate has, James Morris, I believe, has the chlorination there. Woodhall School in Bethlehem, it's a small private school. So it's, I think we operate 15 different schools, of which 11 of them have chlorine.
Thank you.
And again, I'm not here to give you a panic thing like you had an E. coli hit and you have to do this tomorrow. It's sort of to enlighten you. This is what we see on our end of the industry is cheap insurance against a potential problem, but nothing you have to do today or tomorrow.
Any additional questions?
This is an internal question. I assume that this is not accounted for in the budget for next year at the time.
This is currently not in the budget for next year.
Just wanted to double check.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was my next question. How are we paying for that?
Yep.
Will this change the taste of the water? My fellow board members up at Region 7, I think it's city water up there, but there's a lot of complaints from the students about the taste of the water because you can taste the chlorine in the water.
Because this is proactive, if you were to do it proactively, you can determine to set your own level of chlorine. So, for example, we've got several systems that I run the chlorine at 0.3, 0.2, about its minimum. A 0.2 parts per million is the state minimum for them to say there's enough chlorine in the water to do its job. city water will typically run between 0.8 and 2. The state will allow up to 4 parts per million, which is crazy. However, I'll say this now only because in case you go this route in the next months and years or whatever, chlorine is a funny item that if you're in a pool one day and you say, wow, the chlorine is really strong, it's really hurting my eyes. 9 times out of 10, the chlorine is too low. It's the same thing with drinking water. There's a sweet spot where every chlorine, the chemistry you have to find to where you can't taste it, but it's still there. We have a condominium in Woodbury that we have to run at almost 2, and then they can't taste it. If it gets below that, they complain about too much chlorine. Where I live, Wood Lake condos in Woodbury, I maintain the system there. I run that at 0.3. If I get to 0.5, they complain. So every water supply is different. But what we shoot for is relying on the people telling us, you know, where's the good spot. But we start with a minimal amount that we can still feel safe. The reason you carry the residual at all is because if there's a bacteria hit, immediately the demand for that chlorine occurs and whatever chlorine is in the water gets eaten up immediately. And if there's not enough and the bacteria overwhelms it, you've kind of lost the battle already. So that's what the monitor, the chart records.
Paul, you doing all right there? Are we good? Okay, that's what I thought.
I think we can continue having, and is there any more questions for Mr. Black? Do you find these systems more on,
Our market is small utilities, so we have about 10 community systems, such as condo systems. The other 30 we have or so are non-community, like schools or shopping centers. We find them, all of the community systems we have are chlorinated now. Most of the schools we have and the commercial properties that have restaurants or daycares, we have them on. And again, it's really just a protection against bacteria hits.
any further questions? So, Jeff, is there anything that you were looking for today? I see that this proposal is dated May 23rd of 2023, so it's about a year old.
Mhm.
You're bringing it to the board. Is there any action you're looking for this tonight?
No action tonight. Informational session where the expert can speak and gives, very fine-grained detail that I would not have. It's for the board's consideration going into the future. As he said, we don't have an emergency right now, which is a great thing, but we want to consider all options. And I wanted to bring that before the board and publicly so folks in our community can know some of the things that were under consideration and advisement to keep our kids healthy and safe.
Can I ask that this proposal be revised and brought current by Mr. Black? And then can we also ask our facility subcommittee to look a little deeper into this? Do a little bit of research. Again, I would encourage the board that, again, we won't take any action today on this, but I appreciate, Mr. Black, I appreciate you coming in here. And again, I would hope you'd be available for any additional questions that the subcommittee
While I
might have.
have your ear, I mentioned PFAS. I just need to tell you this is coming. It's not an option. The EPA has just passed the reg. It says every water system has to test for PFAS within the next 3 years. It's an expensive test, about $1,000 per well. So we've got 2 wells here. And then if there's a trace of anything in the water, they're telling you to test it again to confirm. And the detection limits are 4 parts per trillion of 6 different PFAS and PFOA substances, which we have done 13 wells now of our systems. 7 of them have been clean and the other 6 have shown it. The town of Weston was pretty heavy with it, so we installed a treatment system down there already. Simply because once you test for it, if you know it's there, kind of got to be ready to treat for it. The timeframes that the EPA is giving you is 3 years to get the testing done, and then 5 years from today to get the treatment installed.
So not being a water
It's ex-
scientist, I'm
it's
going to assume
expensive.
PFAS is a bacteria?
No, PFAS is a chemical that has been used in this country mostly, but it is worldwide, but mostly in this country since the 50s. It's the slang of it is the forever chemical, and the reason it was made and developed was to make things it's mixed with work better and last forever. Well, now we're going to pay the price because that chemical never breaks down, and it's proving to be a pretty hefty carcinogen. So if that's why the levels of their testing are so incredibly small, because even the smallest amounts, if you drink enough of the water over enough time, it's not a good chemical.
Will chlorination help?
No. At this point, the most cost-effective method is granular activated carbon, just a big carbon filter. However, the time it needs a full 10-minute exposure for a carbon bed in order to work. So for example, in the town of Weston, they have an 18-gallon-a-minute pump system, very small but a large holding tank. That system costs them $70,000 to install. And I have replaced the carbon twice already. And each time I do, it's $12,000. So it's a huge cost. That's why the EPA is giving everybody 5 years to sort of, what I'm recommending is to get it in your budgets to test for, because the sooner you test and the sooner you know about it, the longer you can plan. And for that, to answer your question about grants and money, there is money available at the moment in the feds and the state to help with PFAS remediation.
Is there a link between recycling plants or landfills and PFAS,
Yes.
right? Leaching and contaminating the groundwater?
Yeah, and sewage plants, industrial sites, fire departments, sadly, have been using chemicals that are hugely components of PFAS for decades. Once it goes in the ground, it never breaks down, it never goes away, and eventually it finds its way into the water supply. So the anticipation is that awful lot of systems are going to find it. The good news is, like for here, you've got rock wells that are not next door or downhill gradient from any of these things. So there's a good chance that these will come out clean. If they're clean, and then that's the end of that discussion. If they're not, you need to start figuring out how you're gonna supply the water, because you don't have the luxury of saying there's a water main down on the road.
I appreciate the heads up on that.
So for that rosy amount, I thought I'd just,
Yeah, it's nice.
but I mean, it's important to realize because it's going to come.
Yeah.
It's not something you can avoid. This is a reg they've locked in.
So as a proactive approach, if we could also have our facility subcommittee
Added.
in the future, I don't think this is something that needs to
Jeff,
happen.
I did send you some information on those, right?
Yes, sir. Got it.
So at least it's in the files.
Yep.
It's there.
That was a free coupon we got today. Chlorination and a little
You got,
PFAS.
you got some real good news.
All right, if there's no further questions for Mr. Black, again, I appreciate your
All
time.
right.
Thank you for coming in.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
You know where to find me.
Thank you. Thank you.
So if anyone does, as you start thinking about these things, if you have further questions, please send them to me and Superintendent Sosa, and we'll get them to Mr. Black, and then funnel the answers through the committee, through our facilities committee. Okay, item number 2 under new business. These are all first reads. We have 4 policies today. Who is bringing us through policies?
I'll do it with the team that's
Okay.
here. As Penny's absence. So first and foremost, always a great amount of thanks to all of the members of the policy subcommittee and our chairperson, Penny Miller, for helping us and guiding us through. So the first one we have should look very familiar. We just submitted a couple months ago, maybe, our educator diversity plan. This codifies it and being in accordance with, again, Public Act 23-167, which is a loaded legislation that came our way. So this just makes sure that we are in compliance with that. So that's the first one, that's increasing educator diversity. It gives the template that you'll see at the end, should look familiar to you. We utilize this template. We worked with Ed Advance as an administrative team. We attended workshops for support for legislative updates and requirements, and submitted that on behalf of New Hartford Public Schools. We added the component of merit, as we discussed here at our Board of Education meeting, and we also know that that takes place during our hiring process when we're hiring the best candidate to be before our children each and every single day. So that's increasing educator diversity, policy P411.3, first read. Next policy on is 4118.22 and 4218.22 for personnel, code of ethics. Our code of ethics had not been revised in a number of years. This one is much more robust as provided by CABE Policy Services. This code of ethics is something that we then utilize for our professional development and review with our staff every single year as best practices, and knowing as a professional in New Hartford Public Schools what the expectations are.
Jeff, how is this code of ethics presented to the employees? Is it during their first sign-on, or is it an annual thing, or?
Yep, annual component that we review with all staff within the staff handbook, and this will be added onto there now. Absolutely, when new hires. Yep. Up next, everyone is pretty well aware, if you're not, of the new kindergarten age requirement. This, again, makes sure that we have this within our policy, and it's a replacement for 5112 currently, so this would completely replace it. This is for the age of attendance, admissions, and placement for our kiddos, 5 years of age or over, on or before the first day of September, and that would be effective this summer, July 1st, 2024. So this just puts it into, it codifies it within our policy.
Does this still give the local district latitude?
Yes, that has not changed. We've requested it legislatively as CABE, as a Connecticut Association of Boards of Education, and also as CAPS, Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendents, to have that waiver component be eliminated. We're awaiting to hear more to make it a little bit more black and white, if you will, instead of a gray area where then there's a waiver process. We will be engaging in that this year. Again, great thanks to our team for helping, and with a number of educators as well that will be providing a screener and then giving recommendations to our families, and then meeting with families and talking with families about recommending for kindergarten or not. So that's our process that we have in place now. And the last policy in Reg 5141.5 for students is youth suicide prevention attempts. This really puts into play the work that our mental health experts and our administration and our educators know of and do on a daily basis. God forbid there's a risk assessment or an issue that comes up with one of our students that they're having difficulties, we have processes, procedures in place to safeguard, to keep kids supervised, never to be left alone, for an example, how to then call home, what to do, what other resources there are to connect with school psychologists, our school social workers, our director of student services, administration and such, to make sure that everyone understands this is how we conduct when we have a suspicion or a child verbalizes that they're having difficulties. These are the safeguards to keep our kiddos safe when they're within our care, and sometimes when they're without our care as well.
So this language in red that was added, this is an add to the
Yes.
policy, I assume? This was a recommendation by CABE?
Correct. So those are modifications to be added.
Jeff Cave reviews these.
Yes.
That's our policy.
Yes, yes. Yep. And they're provided to us. Our policy subcommittee then reviews them and looks for modifications that we see fit for our district and our needs. And then we bring them before the board for implementation, first read, second read. Yeah, they do. Yep, yep. CABE attorney does, absolutely. Yes, yep. They have a whole policy department led by Jody Goler, who is the former superintendent of Hamden Public Schools as well. Yep.
Any further questions on the first reads of the 4 policies for today? All right, seeing none, we will move on to item I on the agenda, reports. We have a report for Ed Advance.
I'll turn it over to Deirdre. You can just mic on.
All right, so I just got back from a board meeting last week. Just a couple of highlights. These minutes have not been approved, obviously, but just the biggest news, obviously, if everyone hasn't heard, is Dr. Kitching is retiring. They decided to hire an internal candidate, Jonathan Costa, who's currently the senior assistant executive director. So it was a really good hire. He will be starting, I believe, June. He's already obviously preparing for the role. Dr. Kitching will be retiring, I think, after their board or June meeting. At the meeting last week, we discussed and the board approved increases for eligible hourly staff to 3%. They also improved a 1 to 1.5% for eligible salaried employees. So that was something that we discussed and approved. They did go over the agency budget for 2024, 2025. And at first it looked a little alarming. There was a $276,000 deficit. However, that's due to the new initiatives that they're doing. They're doing the in-school climate mental health service program, the college career Excella program. And what they did explain is that they're owed quite a bit of money from the state and federal dollars. So when we look at the budget again in October, that should be offset quite a bit. And so there's not probably as much of a deficit is what they're anticipating in October. Is what I understood. We also approved the slate of new officers. They also have been working very diligently on their new diversity plan as well, which I think that have been partaking in. And that was pretty much the major things that were happening at the meeting. They did go over their full board of assets of all of the assets they own, the buildings that they own, so that if there was ever some issue with the budget and the deficit, we knew that we have quite a few assets available to us to be able to sell. We had them assessed and what their value was. So they also went over that as well. And that is about it.
Was there
Oh, I'm sorry. We also had one more thing. Oh my God, the most important thing. I apologize. I even have notes on it. So there was a scholarship. There were 150 students. This is the most important part of all that I just said. Oh my God. I even have notes on it. 150 kids were applied for the scholarship, and they gave out 3 scholarships, one of which went to one of our kids in Northwest Regional. So he got $1,500. So his name is Garrett Gallo. I don't know, does everybody know him? I don't know. You know him? Yeah, so Garrett won from Northwest Regional. He's going to be going to the community college to study computer information systems. His essay was about his various volunteer experiences. We didn't get to read the essays, but they also gave one to someone from Litchfield High School who's going to go to the University of South Carolina to study biomedical engineering. And her essay was about service to her local community. And so, yeah, so 150 applicants, which was pretty good. And they gave out 4. Sorry about that part. That's about it.
Any questions regarding the Ed Advance Board of Directors meeting?
I have one question, which is if the money from the state doesn't come in the, whatever they're planning for with the deficit, does that come back to us? Like, is that something we have to help address?
No,
Okay.
no. So, I mean, I don't want to be alarmed. Like,
No.
I was a little alarmed. I was like, oh my God, 276. But then Jonathan got up and explained that the money's coming. There's a windfall of money coming. And so he didn't want to, Dr. Kitching was a little bit more like, okay, this is my budget. I'm responsible for this. But then Jonathan got up and was like, we have so much money that's owed to us. And so they seem to be in a very good financial picture. Okay. Yeah, they seemed fine. I mean, I saw the number and I was like, oh my God, but they're doing a lot of programs, like I mentioned, so that's where that money is going.
Any additional questions? All right, seeing none, we will move on to item J on the agenda, additional public comment. Does anybody wish to speak on the agenda items only from today's meeting? No? You're all very quiet today. All right, seeing none, we will move on to item K, executive session for the New Hartford Board of Education Superintendent's Evaluation. I will entertain a motion to enter executive session.
A motion that we enter executive session.
Motion by Frank at 8:02 to enter executive session. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second by Tim Russell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you all.
Thank you.
I thought it did.